Welcome to Brazos Matters. I'm Jay Sokol, and with me once again is senior journalism major at Texas A&M and KAMU student content contributor Macy Litters. Hey, Mace.
Hi, Jay.
So you and I continue to explore topics that you said at the beginning of this semester were of particular interest to you. And I think this one is at the top of your list, and I'd love for you to explain what that is and why you felt it was so important.
Yeah, so I studied abroad in Portugal last summer, and it was truly the most amazing experience I've ever experienced. And so I am just trying to let people know how important it is for students of my age to experience something like this while they're in college and how life-changing it is.
Okay,
So,
and how accessible it is to your fellow students.
exactly.
Okay, so we brought in the absolute best mind on this topic at Texas A&M, friend of KAMU and now second-time guest on Brazos Matters, Associate Vice President for Global Engagement, Dr. Holly Hudson. Hey, Holly.
Hi, Jay. Hi, Macy.
Hi.
Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. This is exciting.
Course. So, Holly, global engagement is a lot more than just education abroad. Can you tell me a little bit about what lies underneath the blanket of global engagement?
Yes, and thanks again for giving me a softball question to start with. So the Department of Global Engagement is part of the Office of the Provost, and our office is largely an academic support unit, and we, in theory, are responsible for coordinating most of the global activities that occur on campus as they relate to students or academic pursuits in some way. So our office, in addition to education abroad, where we send several thousand students abroad annually, we also have the Office of International Student and Scholars, and that office is responsible for helping us to bring our international students here from other countries and scholars. It's a largely compliance-based operation, but they do get around to managing some events and programs to make sure that our international students feel welcome while they're here. We have about 6,000 plus international students here annually, so it's a good population here in Aggieland. We also have global partnerships and initiatives, and this is a unit that manages our international academic agreement process. They help us host our delegations when they come here from other countries. They also do some interesting and new global learning programs. So we are now officially a Peace Corps prep institution, and that program is out of our Global Partnerships and Initiatives unit. We run a program called the Global Career Accelerator out of our Global Partnerships and Initiatives unit. And we have a very robust Aggie Ambassador program that's part of that unit as well. So the director of that unit likes to say they're the kind of catch-all of global engagement, and in some ways they are, but they're also very creative and a lot of great things happening there. In addition to those areas, we have a passport office, and we do quite a bit of other, events and planning and doing things around campus and the community to support international education.
Yeah. Well, I know for a fact that study abroad changed my life last year when I went. Why do you think it's so important for students at my age to experience this in their college years?
Yeah, I think study abroad is important for a number of reasons. I would say that it is certainly something that can help you to develop those soft skills. And soft skills is one of those terms that I think we need to work harder at finding another term for, but essentially meaning help with intercultural communication, learning how to navigate challenging circumstances, learning how to deal with ambiguity, right? All of those things that I'm sure that you experienced as a study abroad student, regardless of how much you prepared for that experience. I'm sure you found yourself in moments trying to figure things out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Many times.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the primary benefits of study abroad. Also, study abroad is certainly one of those opportunities for students to engage in learning with people from different cultures. And we work in a global marketplace, and students who graduate from Texas A&M are highly likely to work with teams from around the globe. And so if you've had that experience of trying to solve problems and work and learn in another culture, then you're going to be better prepared. So it's also something that helps you with your career readiness upon graduation. And I would say the other part of, the importance of study abroad is really that diplomacy piece. Education abroad, study abroad started as really a diplomatic mission, and it's what we would call academic diplomacy. Post-World War I, the idea being that if you expose people to other cultures that are unfamiliar through the learning process and through that exposure, hopefully what happens is they become friends. And it's much harder to go to war with your friends, right? So hopefully we're also all learning to be tolerant and open-minded and engage in meaningful conversations with people that are unfamiliar through the study abroad process.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I'm glad to hear you mention academic diplomacy, because my assumption, based on headlines that we all see every day, is that our global community is a little more fragile in some ways, and maybe that means some relationships are a little more fragile. It just feels like at times things are turned a little upside down. Is that something that you and your peers feel, or is that a misperception of mine?
I think yes, in some ways we do feel that, but we also feel a very strong connection to our partners around the globe. So I think what we read and see in the headlines is accurate and real and meaningful. But when it comes to relationships, which is what we're building when we send students to study abroad, those relationships are often very strong, and I would say in times of crisis or fragility, they become even stronger. So last week we were able, the College of Engineering hosted a colloquium on international education and engineering, and we had folks from all over the globe there. And we had great dialogue about what's happening in the world today. And I think we all left with a renewed sense of purpose for the work that we do, and not feeling overwhelmed or like it was insurmountable, but like, when you bring people to the table and you can talk as humans together, that's where change happens, So I do think that there's some hope out there.
In terms of affordability and costs and so forth, everything feels like it's costing us more, whether it's through tariffs or healthcare costs or what have you. Are costs also going up for education abroad in terms of students and families, as well as for your own operation, or is everything able to kind of hold steady?
Yes, that's a great question. I hope all the right people are listening. Yes, costs are definitely going up. And I would say that, education and the cost of education, the cost of travel, all of those things are not insulated. Everything is going up, right? I mean, I hate to bring up eggs, but people tend to do that when we're talking about the cost increase, right? I would say post-pandemic, this started, and where this is impacting us in the education abroad space is more to do with the care and the time that we are putting into creating every experience for students, ensuring that we're doing full risk mitigation. Not that we didn't before, but we're doing it in a different way, right? After a pandemic, people tend to behave a bit differently. So I would say staff time to make things happen is much more increased than it used to be, right? So it takes a lot longer to create these experiences intentionally and carefully. So that's more expensive in terms of staff timing and staffing. And then the cost of travel is more expensive. The cost of education is more expensive. I would say it's not it hasn't reached a point of being unaffordable or so much different that students aren't participating in it. But it is something that we're keeping an eye on, and we're certainly looking for ways to be creative in funding and more resources for helping students get scholarships or grants to study abroad. And we have some great administrators who are supportive of this and leadership at the university, and we certainly have donors and alumni who feel very strongly about international education and study abroad and are, I think, committed to helping keep these costs down for students. But I will say Texas A&M does an excellent job of awarding scholarships for most students who study abroad.
Absolutely. Well, you beat me to my question. I was going to ask you some affordability options and ways that y'all are able to meet students where they are in their needs, because I know a big reason is affordability. I feel like students have a perception where, their parents don't help them out with anything, their funds, and they of course want to go study abroad in a different country, but the affordability, it's just too expensive. And like you said, the prices are going up and it's harder to do that. So you said there are many ways that y'all have tried to meet them where they are, and yeah, and I'll say we also have so many different program types and program options for students. So perhaps not every student can afford to do every program, but we have a program in every category of budget. Yeah. So, for example, we have programs called reciprocal exchange programs. And those are programs where we partner with an institution across the globe. We'll just say maybe Sweden. And our student here at Texas A&M pays their tuition here to Texas A&M as they would normally. And all of their financial aid that they would normally get and scholarships generally apply to that tuition. And then they go abroad to the partner university and live there, and then a student from that partner university in Sweden, for example, would pay their tuition at their home campus, and all of their expenses and all of their grants and et cetera would apply, and then they come here, so they literally swap places. Wow. That's a very affordable way to study abroad. It's also not a very common way because I think students don't think about realistically about spending a whole semester abroad. But it is most students who do that come back and try to do it again or try to stay longer. I understand.
So studying abroad on an exchange program is extremely affordable. We also have a lot of affiliate programs. We have great faculty out there doing field trips, and so those are trips that are attached to a course that's running in a spring or fall semester. Those tend to be a little bit less expensive. And then we have faculty-led group programs, which are also great opportunities for students. They sometimes tend to be a little bit more pricey, but because they offer Texas A&M credit, you can use all of your institutional aid for those programs.
Yeah. I think another big reason why people kind of are hesitant to maybe sign up for study abroad programs is, this is my experience and people I've talked to about it. My best friend and I had a conversation about it because I had come back from Portugal and I was like, you need to do this. Like, this is so important. Please, like, if you can sign up. And she was like, well, I tried to look into it, but it's just so much paperwork and so much signing. And like, it's a long time consuming process. And I feel like people kind of don't either have the time or like the energy for that sometimes. But of course it's for a good reason. Yeah, you're going across the country. But what do you think about that time-consuming process? Do you think it's worth the time? Like, do you think that's all for a good reason?
Or is this the first you're hearing about it?
No, I would say not the first. In fact, as a student many years ago who went on study abroad programs, I would have had the same thoughts about, wow, this is taking so much effort. And that's back before when we had to like walk the papers from office to office. So in some ways I have not a lot of sympathy. But in other ways, I understand that we have to meet our modern students where they are. And I'll say a couple things. We have tried very hard to streamline the process to make it as easy for students to engage in as possible. We have software that does a lot of things for you now. We try very hard not to have you duplicate information so that you're not providing your demographic data over and over and over again,
Yeah.
right? So we do try very hard, but then I'll say this. There's almost nothing that is meaningful and important in your life that doesn't take a little bit of effort.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is also one of those things because it's extraordinarily important that you go through the process to ensure that you're aware of what you're signing up for, that you're prepared, that you have the right information, that we have the right information, right? All of those things are really critical. We don't want you getting to the airport and then figuring out that you don't have a passport, so you just spent all that money and you can't go, right?
Yeah.
So while it is somewhat labor intensive, I would say it's absolutely worth it. And if there's ever something that's insurmountable or too much, where our doors are open and we're happy to talk about it, and maybe there's a place where we can make improvements. But generally, I think it's definitely worth it.
Absolutely.
And hopefully it's not too labor intensive.
We're going to do a quick reintroduction here. If you're just tuning in, I'm Jay Sokol, along with Macy Litterst. Our guest today is Dr. Holly Hudson, Associate Vice President for Global Engagement at Texas A&M. We're talking about education abroad, which a lot of people know more commonly as study abroad.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, A&M is the largest study abroad program. How did that come about, and why are we the biggest?
Yeah, so Texas A&M has had an incredible history of supporting education abroad, and the area that we're currently number one in terms of our numbers is our short-term programs, and those are predominantly because of our faculty. They are short-term faculty-led experiences. Aggies like to travel and do things with other Aggies, and so these are opportunities for faculty who have a sincere passion or belief in either an academic discipline or a location, or hopefully both, that are married together, to recruit students and take them abroad and really help them by learning outside of the classroom, right? And having the world be their classroom. And so these programs are extremely popular, really, and we're growing because of faculty, because they are interested in global learning, and because we have support from administrators through the deans and the provost to support faculty in developing these opportunities, because if we didn't have their support, then they wouldn't be able to engage in this with all the other responsibilities that they have. So I think that's the primary reason. I also think that Texas A&M, it has a unique history of civil service and commitment to service, and so much of what study abroad does is teach you about the importance of being engaged and civically minded and service oriented. So I think it's actually also a perfect match for the culture of Texas A&M.
Yeah.
So talking about student numbers, sheer numbers, are your numbers going up? Are they going down? Are they holding steady? What does that look like?
Yeah, great question. So in terms of study abroad numbers, post-pandemic, we did experience a bit of a dip, as did the entire world. So we weren't unique there. I would say we hit a bump in trying to rebuild a little bit. We rebuilt faster than most people, but then weren't able to sustain that growth multiple years in a row. So we did have some years last year before, where we were seeing a decline, but now we're back up on the increasing participation side of things. And I've done a lot of looking at this. I think institutionally there was a lot of change, and so a lot of faculty who we were working with on these programs left or retired. It was just, post-COVID, a lot of people who could retire did, right? So I think some of it was related to institutional turnover and just having to rebuild that faculty group that was supporting us. And then the rest of it was really just due to the climate of the world. But we're doing good things right now, and the numbers are looking good. Students seem to be interested. We're doing a lot to keep costs down. So, hopefully we'll maintain our, number one short-term program status.
I bet you will.
So I know that just numbers don't tell the whole story. What are some other markers that you use to demonstrate the success of your program to administration and anybody else who's interested?
Sure, that's a great question. Well, I think what we want to see, right, are students who come back from their education abroad experience and make a difference, right? So it wasn't just something that happened, but it was something that, not something they just did, but something that actually happened to them, right? Mm-hmm. That they are changed as a result. And we look at things like, there are lots of studies right now nationally that are looking at things like graduation rate, retention, GPA, all of those things following study abroad as compared to students who don't. The good news is that students who study abroad tend to have better GPAs, tend to progress through their degree at actually a faster rate than those who don't, which most people think that isn't the case. A lot of students do more than one program. We have students who come back and do the Aggie Ambassador Program or other ambassador programs to go out and spread the word about study abroad and education abroad experiences. And we certainly want to see students who graduate and come back and either give to the university, give to education abroad, or talk about that education abroad experience as part of what made their time here at Texas A&M valuable. We just had a keynote speaker at an event last week that did just that, and he talked about his experiences here and how that was life-changing and critical to him being able to start his own company. Mm-hmm. And so those are other ways that we know that what we're doing matters and is important to the university, certainly. Mm.
Well, in terms of race, ethnicity, nationality, and colleges and departments, what do you typically see in those groups that sign up for study abroad?
In terms of participation?
Yes.
Yeah, so interestingly, Texas A&M is unique in that our enrollment data for education abroad almost mirrors our enrollment data for Texas A&M University overall, which is pretty unique. We have a high percentage of students across race and ethnicity and gender that participate in education abroad. We also have an incredibly high percentage of STEM students studying abroad, which is also something that is not particularly common across the board in education abroad offices throughout the U.S. So, for example, in the College of Engineering, they're sending, I think, close to 2,000 students out annually. That's very unique. They have a goal of sending 50% of all of their Texas A&M engineering graduates abroad, which is an amazing goal, and I have no doubt that they're going to achieve it because they're determined and they're putting a lot of resources behind making that happen. I would say, one way to do that is to ensure that we are plugging in these experiences into students' degree programs so that it becomes part of the curriculum, part of what they're required to do, or at least something that is an option that they're getting credit for and that it's going to count for something. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, here comes a weird question for you.
Bring it on.
Apple's newest AirPods.
To translate.
Yeah, they can translate languages in real time.
Yeah.
And so this is a loaded question, but do you see a time when education abroad may not prioritize learning words and phrases in other countries because technology can do that for you?
So interesting that you asked that, because right before I came here today, I was writing a little article for a magazine, an international ed magazine, about our new Senate bill that's aimed at requiring language, or not requiring, but giving students the option of language study on study abroad programs. And And I had to do a little research for that, and it did show that foreign languages in the U.S. has decreased significantly since 2009. I think it's somewhere around 20% drop in language study. But I guess the upside of this is that employers now, especially in things like healthcare, are seeing a real need for language speakers across the board, and finding those people hard to locate. So I think if industry says, and employers are saying, we need people with language skills, then that's good. That means we have some hope to survive against Apple AirPod translators. But I think you miss something if you don't learn to struggle a little bit in a language. Now, do I think it's going to be super helpful to be able to say some things? Yes, but hopefully it won't take over.
Yeah. Well, is there anything at all that we didn't cover that you would like people to know about this program?
Well, I would like to make sure to remember to say that this upcoming week is International Education Week. And International Education Week has been going on in the U.S. for a very long time. It's a joint initiative in the Department of State and Department of Education and Department of Justice. And the point of this is to showcase international and education worldwide and to celebrate it. And we are going to do that next week. With 16 different events that are coordinated across the campus with various offices throughout the university, and we hope that we're going to have great turnout. So I hope everyone listening will come to one of those events.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
How do we find out more? What's a good website to check out?
Thanks for asking. Global.tamu.edu has a lot of information there about all of our events, ways to get involved, ways to contribute, ways to donate, and all sorts of information about our programs.
I have to think you would rather be in the position of a student to go out on some of these adventures than having to coordinate it all. It sounds like such a happier experience for a student, right?
It's such a great experience, but I did it as a student. I did it multiple times, and the reason that I do this job today is because it was so impactful.
Yeah.
It changed my life. So I'm just happy to help students find opportunities.
Dr. Holly Hudson, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Brazos Matters is a production of Aggieland's Public Radio, 90.9 KAMU FM, a member of Texas A&M University's Division of Community Engagement. Our show is engineered and edited by Matt Dittman. All Brazos Matters episodes are available on YouTube and on podcast platforms like Spotify, Apple, iHeart, and Amazon. We are also on the NPR app and on the KAMU website. We would love for you to rate and review and subscribe so you never miss an episode. For Macy Litterst, I'm Jay Sokol. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Hope you have a great day.